Did you know that on average, the smarter she is, the more likely it is for her to be single? That's because she would rather be alone than waste her motherfucking time.
Welcome, brothers. In today's video, we will talk about single women. We will also see a TikToker talking to us about the concept of hypergamy, because there are more and more single women. Additionally, we will hear from some women who talk about what it's like to currently date men. Brothers, leave us your opinion about the voice change if you like it. Everything clear and with respect. We are trying to bring you better content, so your opinion is valuable to us. But before we go any further, brothers, we want you to support us in our goal for these coming months to reach 50,000 subscribers. We want the family to keep growing, so support us with your subscription and like the video since this helps YouTube to recommend our content more. Don't forget to leave us your comments. Without further ado, let's get started.
Report shows that by 2030, 45% of working women ages 25 to 45 will be non-married, no kids, single. Okay, so you might say, well, what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that, so I wouldn't even ask that. My mind wouldn't have even gone there. Apparently yours did, so hit me with it.
If you think that you're going to be 45 years old, no kids, not married, and that you're going to genuinely be fulfilled in life because you made money,
then you would be absolutely correct. Paul Dolan has studied this extensively, and on the whole, single, childless women are happier, healthier, and live longer than their counterparts. And I'm sure that's exactly what he's going to say too, right? No, of course not. He's going to say something dismissive, patronizing, and sexist.
best of luck to you, honey.
So I think he's a little confused here because it's the single guys that need to hear good luck. Unlike single women, single men are less happy and live shorter lifespans than their married counterparts. And according to Emily Grundy, a lot of this has to do with the fact that we simply don't have the same sorts of vast, deep, rich social networks that women do. Married men lean on their wives to provide all of that, but single guys... Side note, I love that these guys are so concerned about single women and can't be bothered to do a lick of research, and also it turns out that their concern is entirely self-serving.
This is what I believe belongs to that side which it supports. Brothers, I have always seen these discussions about whether they are happier or not. Everyone has their conclusions, but if you go out on the street with a microphone to ask the question, women, out of moderation, will say they are happier. However, antidepressant statistics say otherwise, visits to psychologists say otherwise, and even TikToks say the opposite, as almost all the videos are of women giving advice on how to leave singleness. Why is it that when you see statistics saying 45% of women will be single by 2030, many immediately raise the alarm saying they are happier single, to keep increasing the figure? But it's also to continue brainwashing women into choosing the career path. Brothers, simple propaganda. Because they only talk about women who are happier because they are economically freer, can travel, buy what they want. But they only talk about a minority of women who get good jobs. What about those who didn't succeed, or those who got into debt with credit cards or student loans, those living off the government, those who have to work on the streets to survive? Then, who are the happiest? Because if you make that same comparison with successful men of the same age, these men are also the happiest in the world, especially when the man has the opportunity to always date younger women. So, who is really happy or unhappy?
Ladies, you know I love you to death, but y'all gotta stop with this goofy ass cap of what he won't do, the next man will. As a 38-year-old eligible bachelorette, I could tell you right now, the next man probably won't. You'll get it worse from him. But something that I really want to discuss with y'all, and this is gonna catch me smoke, but you can't cancel reality. The playing field is not level. There are more good single women than there are good single men. And the reality is, what you won't do, the next bitch actually will. There are good women with good pussy and good credit and good manners, thirsty as fuck to come scoop up a man who will go 50% on the bills and come home at night to play his little fucking game. You feel me? You're so worried about aesthetics and keeping up with the Joneses and what so-and-so did on fucking Instagram. You feel like your man ain't putting on for you. Let me tell you something. A good man is a man who comes home every night. It's a man who listens and communicates to you. It's a man who doesn't cheat. It's a man who pays bills and shows up for the children and fixes things where he can. That's a damn good fucking man. And the same way that you want to be loved, he wants to be loved too. Everybody is a fucking prize, not just you. Stop expecting these men to jump through fucking hoops to earn your love, but you're asking for a love that you can't even fucking reciprocate. You got to be willing to give what you want to fucking get in order for that shit to fucking last. So if you got a good man, start pouring into him and stop dangling greener pastures in front of his face, because if you had it like that, you'd have it like that. You feel me?
A round of applause for this woman. She really has her feet firmly on the ground, brother. This woman spoke the truth. The playing field isn't level, as she says. Many women tend to believe that having many men after them means these men are willing to commit, but most just want a passionate night. Then it's, don't call me, I'll call you, and they never call. As a man, you can date 10 women, and a woman can date 20. But out of those 20, only 1 to 4 might want to give her a ring. However, if you are a man of value, out of 10 women, 9 would want to marry you. A valuable man, decent, who works on himself and is firm in his convictions, is worth more than 5 women together. Because as she says, what you don't do as a woman, there's another one willing to do it, younger, with less baggage, more willing to give that man love. This is evident with women who prefer to share a high-value man rather than settle for a simp. That's why you see women speaking ill of their ex-husbands in videos. There's nothing that hurts a woman more than losing a high-value man and seeing him doing wonderfully with a new woman. The kryptonite for women is taking responsibility for their actions, seeing a man happy with a new woman, giving her everything, making that woman happy, the new woman doing everything you didn't do for that man. You got tired of saying was the worst. Brothers, this is like spitting upwards only to have it fall back on your face.
You're delusional if you don't think hypogamy is a problem. Now, hypogamy has become a common talking point for red pill podcasts who like to explain away the rise of young, lonely single men by the fact that women are too picky, that they are evolutionarily hardwired to only go after men of a higher economic or social status than them, and they ignore all of the men below them. The problem is that in order to skirt around the fact that a lot of the data, like that which I've already shown, doesn't support this fact, they have to broaden the definition of hypogamy so wide, it becomes virtually meaningless.
Just be a random dude off the street.
100%. I am not hypergamous at all.
You are so hypergamous, you won't have sex with a guy until the guy is the guy that you're looking for. I think the fact that you are a virgin right now just proves a point that you're like to a very high degree.
The fact that I'm abstinent means that I'm waiting for someone richer than me.
No, hypergamy doesn't mean women are bad.
When did I say bad? When did I even imply that?
Hypergamy is just an algorithm. It's an evolutionary adaptation that women have. It's not a negative or positive thing.
I'm not sure if it's an evolutionary adaptation. I think the reason women have historically been hypergamous is because they were barred from higher education, so obviously the average man was going to earn more than them, but by 2050 we're going to see a total reversal of hypergamy, and they're out-graduating.
Hypergamy has nothing to do with money.
If you don't already follow Fahar, please go do so. She's incredibly smart. And what's interesting is she's doing exactly what podcast bros say women should be doing, in not being promiscuous, in being very specific about her choice of partner, and yet she still ends up being criticized for being too picky, for being hypergamous, proving that the only consistency is that no matter how a woman behaves, these men will find some reason to shame and criticize her. But this discussion also brings up the debate. Is women's hypergamy a result of a social behavior due to historically not being in control of their own economic and social destinies, and so having to marry a man in order to elevate themselves? Or, as the podcast bros put it, this is an evolutionary adaptation. Women are now hardwired to this behavior and utterly incapable of escaping it, despite what they may say. This, of course, lets men off the hook, and to do this, they point to the fact that women prefer men who make more as proof of this. But men also exhibit this preference, just to a lesser degree, and who wouldn't want a partner who makes more? I would love a partner who made more money. Fly me around the world, sugar mama. But what you'll never see them do is point to actual studies.
In a moment, we'll look at the data he will present about hypergamy. I can agree on one thing. There are many red pill men who, no matter what a woman says, she can never win. This is true, and I don't support all the advice given by the red pill community. I find some of it rather extreme. However, I disagree with the notion that hypergamy doesn't exist. It may be to a lesser or greater extent in some women, but all have it to some degree. Soon, we'll see more details about what the studies say. But as always, one must keep in mind that a man's value is often linked to what he brings to the table, be it money, status, or physical attractiveness. If a man has a lot of one of these three, it's likely he can access the most beautiful women, those who are looking for something specific in these areas. For a woman, her calling card is her behavior, her feminine energy, and above all, her level of beauty. Being intelligent or having a good job is a plus, but not all men look for these traits in a woman. So, let's see the studies this pro-women man will discuss.
Studies on hypergamy. 2 years ago, a study was published that looked at exactly the kind of educational hypergamy that Galloway was talking about across 27 European countries, where the educational advantage towards women has existed for longer than the US. And they looked at women's educational advantage and those countries' prevalence of hypergamy. They then mapped those against each other, as well as separated out the oldest cohort in red from the youngest cohort, those born in 1980 or later, millennials, in black. And as you can see, that as countries shift and gain a greater educational advantage towards women over to the right, they also decrease in hypergamy. Not only that, but they dip below the zero line, showing that there's actually a higher incidence of hypogamous relationships, where women are dating down. Another study looked at how gender equality relates to those dating preferences, looking specifically at a number of gender-coded preferences, such as age, attractiveness, being a good cook and housekeeper, versus income level, education, intelligence, and social status. And what they found was the greater the gender parity in that country, the weaker those gender preferences were. Which makes obvious sense. The more you are in control of your own financial stability, the less you need to seek that out in a partner. But the decline of hypergamy isn't even that new. A study from 1968 took a broader look at hypergamy in order to answer the question of do American women marry up, by looking at the occupations of the fathers of both husband and wife. And then they took those occupations and put them into different classes based on their economic and social status to see whether there had been any movement, and then mapped out how many men and women had moved up or down their social class through marriage. And what they found was that 250,000 more women married down than up, but that as a percentage of the overall population, this wasn't significant, and overall it's a wash. There was no tendency to marry up or down for women. As one of these studies points out, this disproves that this is evolutionarily hardwired into women. The only delusion around hypergamy is in thinking that it still exists or has been an issue for men for the last 50 years. And this is what Peterson, Galloway, and these podcast bros don't get. That if your concern is genuinely for men who are struggling and not forming relationships, then you should be advocating for women's greater education and income, because that has been the single biggest factor turning around the trend of hypergamy into hypogamy and women dating down globally. But that would mean admitting that women do date down and that men are no longer the top of the food chain. And I'm not quite sure their fragile egos are ready for that yet.
This supports my point that the greater a woman's stability, the more she tends to act like a man. Women who reach higher economic positions are the ones who end up more single. In the end, you know why they choose downward? Because men at their level prefer to pass them by and go for a woman with lower income who will take care of the children. Something almost impossible in a woman who is a CEO, a top lawyer, or in any career where she is highly successful. Another point made is that Peterson is wrong, but what he says is that the higher the value of the man, whether it be economic, physical, or in terms of intelligence and social skills, the greater the number of women he can access. This attempts to refute hypergamy, but ends up proving it right. For a man to access better women, he has to increase his value as a man. Now, what I can see in this study is that as women's income and rights continue to increase, we will see more women looking for a man just for the sake of having one, regardless of what he brings to the table. We will reach a stage where women are in a better economic position than many men. We will see more masculinized and possessive women with the man in whom she invests her time and resources. That's why every day we see more women who are the pursuers instead of being pursued, lowering their standards just to get a decent man. The woman in the next video explains this better.
Telling you, dating on apps can be such a blessing. You have to try it.
So this is so crazy. I also did the same thing. Hustled on the dating apps, found my husband on Bumble, and used a very similar method. When I work with clients and women, I oftentimes say the apps are a tool, and they are a tool for you to hustle and get in front of more people than you normally wouldn't get in front of. And so it's important to use that to your advantage. And it can be a hustle to meet people, but if you're serious about it, they're out there. I used a very similar messaging tactic with finding something in their profile to start the conversation. I didn't do the phone call and all that stuff because I lived in New York City. I could just easily jump and grab a coffee with somebody or a drink, which is low investment for both of us, to see A, if we have any interest or any chemistry in person, and B, to save me all the time of the chatting back and forth and all that, because I just don't have time for it. Whatever checks and balances you need to put into place to feel safe is fantastic. But both of us are clear examples that if you hustle out there, you use the tools, you meet people, you can find the one.
Brothers, she's right. Currently, dating apps are what's connecting 50% of couples in the last 5 years. People have busy lives and need to use these due to the limited free time they sometimes have. Something I noticed was from a girl who commented on this video. She was advising women to accept coffee dates, which any man seeing this would find most advisable. This woman said that after a coffee date, her husband, like almost every man on a second date, would take you to a better place. It's logical, brothers. Why should I spend a fortune to impress you when I don't even know you? The idea is to get to know each other, not to impress. That's why you see many women complaining about dating apps. Some are not very attractive, others say they don't go on coffee dates, that they hate them, believing they deserve a date at a nice, expensive restaurant. Brothers, learning to use dating apps in these times is crucial for men, because almost all relationships today are formed through this medium. So, improve your game, because now it's the women who are chasing valuable men like you. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. What do you think about the explanation of hypergamy? What do you think about the 38-year-old woman who says not to let a valuable man pass by? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall.